Hello and welcome to PFF Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Ian Hartitz, and today, people, it is DFS Christmas. Week 17, all your season-long leagues are over. If they're not, what are you doing? What are you trying to prove? Who are you trying to impress? We are talking all things DFS on this edition of the PFF Fantasy Football Podcast. Remember, when we do talk all things DFS, that means one injury, one piece of news can change the entire slate, but we're going to do our best to prepare you for that. Anyway, recording this on New Year's Eve at about 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. My guest joining me is lucky enough to be living on the West Coast. Truly, if you are in this industry, you should be on the best coast. I'm looking to correct that mistake myself at some point. But without further ado, I am welcoming on TJ Hernandez. He is a director of DFS at 4for4 Football, also co-host of the DFS MVP podcast. Truly one of the sharper guys in the industry. TJ, happy week 17, man.
Artist, what's up, buddy? I'm closing out the year with you. I think you're the last person I saw outside of San Diego this year because FSGA was right before the old lockdown. So, man, how you doing?
Doing good, man. It was fun meeting you guys in Vegas. I remember being all around and, hanging out with everyone doing good. And I had that, you have that one shot where you just know, all right, I got about 20 minutes and then maybe, I'm not going to know quite how things are going anymore. So back the way, but that was fun meeting you and the entire 4for4 crew. How it goes sometimes. Truly, everyone, if you have not checked out 4for4 Football, one of the first websites to give me a start, they've been just truly, DFS, just season-long projections, all sorts of sharp guys. You guys, it's so cool because I feel like a lot of these companies, PFF included, a lot of guys coming in and out. I mean, I feel like you and the core guys at 4for4, you've all been there for so long.
Yeah, man. I mean, we've had a really good core, but I mean, damn, we've had some awesome talent that's came through there that's left too. We've had you, Bales, Raybon, Holka. Yeah, man, it's been good. I mean, being a spot that just like PFF just focuses on football, I think it sets up to just have people for the long run. So it's been fun over there, man.
Yeah, these other sites wasting their time on different beta sports. Can't believe it. Can't believe it. All right, everyone. As you know, this edition of the podcast usually just goes through 10 questions. These are all DFS centric. For the most part, we'll have some fun along the way as well. But without further ado, we will get things started. TJ, motivation, big factor every week 17. As it stands, the only confirmed news we have right now, the Chiefs will be turning to Chad Henne over Patrick Mahomes. The Steelers are going with Mason Rudolph ahead of Ben Roethlisberger. Then we have the Bills. Maybe the Buccaneers could also be resting some starters, at least for a portion of the game. Are there any DFS plays from these four teams, Chiefs, Steelers, Bills, and Buccaneers, that interest you this week?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily from the Chiefs or Steelers. I mean, like you said, they only mentioned the quarterbacks, but you have to think that if they're resting the quarterbacks, then they'll probably look for some spots to rest their main starters across the board. So actually like the passing games that are playing against those two teams. So on the Chargers side, we got Keenan Allen out. We're going to have a lot of value. Like the Chiefs have just been a good team to stack against when they're playing at full strength. They've been playing in a lot of close games. They've given up 300 passing yards in 4 of their last 8 games, multiple touchdowns in every game in the second half of the season. So we saw Mike Williams get a 30% target share with Keenan Allen out last week. I know a lot of people might be looking to the tight end position this week, but I really like stacking Herbert with Mike Williams at 5K with that big target share. And then we have the Browns going against the Steelers, who knows how many backups they're going to be playing, but like I said, could be all across the board with them kind of just saying that they want to rest. So we saw the Browns last week just implode against the Jets. I mean, obviously they didn't have any of their wide receivers, but then they went out and threw it 100 times without any wide receivers, which made no sense. But I mean, leading up to that game, Baker was top 5 in fantasy efficiency, looking at fantasy points per pass attempt. We have him priced at 5,500. Jarvis, big target share, like around 29% since Odell's been out. Him and Higgins both really high in expected touchdown. That's a metric that we have in 4for4 that just looks at where the ball is being thrown in relation to the end zone. And Jarvis and Higgins have both been up there, so I like targeting them together in stacks. In the other games, I mean, again, there's just so much risk with what the Bills are going to do. They've been the one team that's just been kind of coy, like, oh, maybe we'll rest. We're not sure yet. Like playing with like them and the Steelers are going to be locked into that 2 or 3 seed with no buy for the 2 seed. I mean, there's not crazy incentive to get that there. So I like Gaskin on the other side of it. 19 touches last week against the Raiders, over 21 touches in the last 5 games that he's been active. So yeah, I mean, to answer your question, like not targeting like backups on that side, I like the starters on the other teams that are playing against them. And with the Browns and the Dolphins. We have teams that need to win to get in, some more incentive there. Buccaneers are interesting. I mean, they're one of the teams that they don't necessarily need to win except for seeding, but they can lock in a game against the NFC East champion. So that's incentive enough for them, I think, to play their starters against the Falcons. So I think that's just a good game to stack on both sides.
Yeah, the only question I have with the Buccaneers is Arians was actively force-feeding Evans in the second half, and even said afterwards they wanted to get him to 1,000 so they could rest him. He's been playing banged up all year, so it wouldn't make sense if that was just, for Evans and everyone else would be playing. But, Bruce Arians all freaking year, we just know we can't really trust too much what he's saying. Yeah, ever, man. Love what you said about the Chargers. I think Justin Herbert, Mike Williams, and with Hunter Henry on COVID, we have Donald Parham sitting down there at 2,900 on DraftKings, fresh off coming off that 80% plus snap rate. So he's a full-time guy. So we have a question later about some Galaxy brain thoughts, but I want to just throw one out here for you because it relates to these teams. Deontay Johnson, man, he's priced with Ben, 6,700. Obviously, that's too expensive, but we're not going to see him with this low of ownership again. Hey, even Mason Rudolph, like they had some success last year. We know he's going to be a target hog. Are you at all interested in him in tournaments, or are you just concerned that he could be one of the guys that plays a quarter and then sits on the bench?
I mean, I think any of their primary guys, their big three wide receivers, we don't really know. I mean, there's definitely the concern. I don't think I'm going to be stacking the Steelers side of it. Like you said, if you agree with me and you like the Browns side, I think you probably want to throw some darts in bringing back like a Deontay, especially on DraftKings because of the full PPR. So yeah, I think the only spot I would use him is in bringbacks with the Browns. Like, I just don't think I'll be stacking Mason Rudolph lineups. I think we have other cheap quarterbacks that are worth stacking in spots where they actually need to be winning.
I'm going to have one lineup with Deontay Johnson. And I don't think I'm going to have two, but I'm going to have one. We'll see how it works out. All right, question number 2. One of the more interesting situations on this slate is the Rams offense. We got John Wolford looking like a potential dual threat talent just based on what we've seen in his college pass, preseason, even the AAF action, near mid-price option. We also got Malcom Brown shaping up to be one of the chalkier RBs with Darrell Henderson on IR, Cam Akers, recovering from his high ankle sprain. Are you buying either as someone you're actively looking in to get in the lineups this week, cash or tournament?
Yeah, I actually have this game's probably one of the hardest ones to figure out. I think it has the widest range of outcomes of any game because of all of the backups that are playing for the Rams. I thought that when everybody was injured that the Cardinals were going to be favored by like 10 points.
Yeah.
They're only favored by 3.5, which is crazy. That's really surprising. The over-under is only at 40.5, so not a lot of expectation for scoring. But I will say that because of that wide range of expectations, it does really set up, like that's what we're looking for in tournaments, right? We're looking for wide range of expectations, unknown. But what I will say is if we end up seeing heavy ownership coming in on Wolford, on Malcom Brown, to a lesser extent on guys like Josh Reynolds and Robert Woods, it all of a sudden makes a really interesting spot to leverage the most dynamic fantasy quarterback this year. I mean, he's number 1 or number 2, depending on the point system. You look at fantasy points per game. We've seen him have crazy ceiling games. You could justify rolling out like a naked Kyler tournament with LA's good secondary. And again, that's just kind of contingent on how much we think that those Rams are going to be owned. On the cash game side of it, I will say if you are targeting Wolford or Brown or both, and maybe even Reynolds in there, I think you need to be doing so with the idea that you're jamming in Henry, Devontae, maybe both. Like if you're going to pay all the way down for those, like it has to be a really good reason. It just doesn't make sense to, with guys like Aaron Rodgers and Lamar on the slate that are going to be playing for seeding or for a playoff spot for a 1 seed, with the upside they have. If you're going to forego that upside, it has to be to get to those big names. Like it just doesn't make sense to roll out a Wolford and then just have a balanced lineup. You're just losing so much upside even in cash. So yes, I think they're fine, but again, I think you have to be jamming Henry and Devontae together if you're playing him.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. And yeah, to Sean McVay's credit, I don't think anyone's doubting him as just being a genius play caller, but he has faced the Cardinals 7 times, and the Rams have scored 33, 32, 34, 31, 34, 31, most recently 38 points. This does make sense as a spot where McVay could get the most out of Wolford and, of course, Malcom Brown. So If Cam Akers is active, would you still guess Malcom Brown will be the lead dog? I mean, we don't, it's hard to tell with the injuries, man, but a high ankle sprain 2 weeks ago, like that's tough.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if he's active, I'm probably fading this backfield altogether. I mean, there's already concerns like with a mobile quarterback that he's going to steal some of the touchdown upside. I mean, all you have to do is look across the ball to have the example of that. So many times Kenyon Drake has had 20 touches and just no fantasy production because Kyler takes those rushing touchdowns. I mean, you can look at the flip side of it and say a rushing quarterback opens up those lanes, but if we aren't getting like a clear RB1 on the Rams with Cam Akers out, I think I'm more just going Wolford and then maybe stacking with one pass catcher. But again, I really like the Cardinals side just from a straight leverage perspective. If we see like on those cheap, these $5,000 quarterbacks that starts catching hype from people like us, we've seen them like reach 20% ownership, which is crazy high for a quarterback. So if he's going to be 20%, we can get Kyler at 7%. I mean, that's a crazy opportunity.
Good stuff. All right. So speaking of Brown, we got several running backs priced at 4,500 or lower on DraftKings that, should function as their offensive lead back. I'm sure they're going to be having some heightened ownership come Sunday. We got Ty Johnson with Frank Gore and LaMichael Pirine sidelined. Dare Ogunbowale with James Robinson out again. Potentially Mike Boone if Alexander Madison joins Dalvin Cook on the bench. Let's assume Akers is out, Madison's out. How would you rank Brown, Boone, Johnson, and Dare just in terms of raw projections, not even considering ownership?
I hate this question so much because this is such a tough spot. I'm going to go ahead and put Malcom Brown at the top there. I mean, if Akers is out, we've seen Akers or a running back have a lot of upside in this offense. Again, I know we just said that Wolford can steal some of that upside, but it's still just such a good spot for a running back that could be getting 20 touches. After that, it gets pretty hairy. I'm actually going to put Ty Johnson ahead of Boone. I think a lot of people would automatically say Boone there, but we've seen Ty Johnson do really well when he's only had one spot to really get volume, but he went over 100 yards against the Raiders. I think just comparing him to Boone, the Vikings, we've seen them do some crazy stuff with Amir Abdullah. He can steal some goal line carries, and it just sets up for a game, a Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Irv Smith game. We saw Detroit just get destroyed by Tampa Bay through the air, and I just really like Minnesota's passing game. I know they are one of the most run-heavy teams in the league, but if their top two backs are out, why not just lean on the strength of your team and the weakness? I mean, I know Detroit's weakness is everywhere, but just those players, Thielen, Smith, and Jefferson, just suggest that they really go pass heavy. And then Dare, I mean, 14-point underdogs. I know he saw 71 yards on 14 carries last week and got 3 more catches, but I mean, they can just get boat raced in that game there. So, if that Vegas line proves true and they end up down in double digits, then he's probably not going to get towards those 20 touches that we would like to see. So I'd say Brown, Johnson, Boone, and then Dare.
Yeah, I agree. Dare should be down there at the end. The Boone one is tough because it is a great matchup, but to your point, it's a great matchup everywhere. So I would just say, you were talking before about potentially leveraging off of Wolford. If we see Madison out and Boone all of a sudden has this really high ownership, go get those pass catchers. I would
I was gonna say, you mentioned the Galaxy brain, and we've already went there twice. I mean, is Amir Abdullah the super Galaxy brain? He's not. That's not what I'm gonna say, but I mean, is he the one? Is he the one that just we realize like, oh man, this is the week 17 of all week 17s?
If he can make the most out of 10 to 12 touches, man, he really could be there. Maybe get a punt return score or something too. Oh man, we're starting to talk ourselves into it. Oh no, we gotta get out of here. All right, Christian McCaffrey, Mike Davis, both sidelined. We're getting to even more Galaxy brain random RBs. Rodney Smith and Trenton Cannon should see enhanced roles, but come on, the real winner here is Curtis Samuel. Already was seeing a bunch of backfield work anyway. Look, I think we should be calling him at this point Millennial Percy Harvin. That's what he is. Dual threat, RB, wide receiver from an Urban Meyer offense. Speed kills. Curtis Samuel has plenty of it. Are you confident enough in Samuel's role to lock him in the cash lineups? I believe he's only sitting there at 5,300.
Yeah, 5,300. I mean, we saw him get 7 carries last week. You were the first one on this. You said this in preseason or week 1. The real CMC replacement is Curtis Samuel.
That's
right.
You're
the first one to say that.
I don't want to hurt myself, pat my own back.
No, I got you. But 7 carries last week with Mike Davis out. I mean, that if that goes up just a couple, if he gets 10 carries with his receiving work, we can get a wide receiver sub 6,000 that could see 15 touches. I mean, you just don't overthink it. Whether you go to the build that we talked about, Wolford, and then jamming in Devontae and Henry. Curtis Samuel actually fits that build quite well. And then obviously a balanced build, I don't think you have to think about it too much. If you're going Devontae and Lamar, he fits there. Pretty much any build, he just really fits in nicely. And if you're getting even just a little bit running back work from a wide receiver, it's kind of a cheat code, I think.
Oh, yeah, even before Mike Davis got ruled out, I mean, I think we could pretty much say the same things about Curtis Samuel. Now you take him out of the picture. Yeah, we could truly be looking at 10 plus rush attempts and, 5 to 10 targets. And we see the dual threat quarterbacks take over fantasy football. We see the running backs that can catch passes. Yeah. There's only it's really at this point, Robert Woods and Curtis Samuel are the only wide receivers that consistently get the rushing production. But now it's not just going to be a carry or two. We could be looking at legit double digit carries. Do you think there's anything enough so I think Robbie Anderson didn't practice yesterday. Are you interested in maybe DJ Moore as a tournament option? Because we know he's got the big game upside, and he seems to own the Saints too.
No, definitely. For that reason, like again, with them down, kind of like we talked about with Minnesota, with them down 2 running backs, we could just see a pass heavy game plan here. And again, like just going into these, I think you have to be very cognizant of all of these scenarios in terms of range of outcomes for week 17. If the Packers are up by like 20 on the Bears, then all of a sudden Saints really don't have much to play for. Like what they're playing for right now is an outside shot at the 1 seed, right? So if they scoreboard look up at halftime and see that the Packers are just smoking the Bears, they might be like, all right, let's get some of our guys some rest on both sides of the ball, rest up for the playoffs. So, I mean, we have to be considering all those things. And if that happens, that plays into just better opportunity for the Panthers all around.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. Ton of sub 4K wide receivers on DraftKings this week that I think you can talk yourself into. I spent a couple hours in the afternoon yesterday just dreaming of all the possibilities. We got Richie James with Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel sideline, Gabriel Davis. Even if Smokey Brown happens to return, I still think he's going to be pretty much starting with Cole Beasley banged up. We got Len Bowden with all the injuries in the Dolphins. Again, I can go on and on and on. TJ, talk to me about a sub 4K receiver you feel the most confident in saving some salary with.
Gabriel Davis is probably my favorite, not just because of the injuries, but because if the Bills do decide to rest some guys up a little bit, then regardless of Josh Allen is playing or not, he might just be the clear wide receiver 1. I mean, just a couple of weeks ago at the end of the game, in a blowout, we saw Diggs kind of nick his foot up a little bit. He's the one player I think they, obviously besides Josh Allen, that they really don't want to risk on the offensive side of the ball. So that would put Gabe Davis in a really clear wide receiver 1 role. Then just going back to the Rams with Cooper Kupp out, you have to look at Josh Reynolds at 3,200. I love him a lot. Kupp's opening up about 8 targets per game. This Arizona secondary is one that's been pretty susceptible to wide receivers. Again, we don't know exactly how that offense is going to shake out, but at 3,200, we've seen Reynolds perform well before, even with Kupp active. So I like him a lot as well.
Yeah, I think Gabriel Davis is shaping up as the safest. If you need to save some salary in cash games, I think that does make sense. Len Bowden, I think having Fitzpatrick out actually helps him, but we're seeing Devontae Parker getting a limited practice on Wednesday. So if he's back, he'll probably end up being the featured guy. And Bowden, just with those lower ADOT type routes, I don't think we have the same sort of upside. So yeah, Gabriel Davis, man, he's had a couple touchdowns nullified by penalty. I think he had a drop, or no, he had a touchdown last week that I think they just there was like an offsides call. No, Belichick called a timeout. Everyone kept playing.
On a perfect pump fake. I think it was on a 3rd down, right? Or a 4th down?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, for those that don't follow TJ on Twitter, at TJ Hernandez, he's had the Stewie avatar for years. Before the season started, he officially claimed his stake in the top tier of the Josh Allen fan club by putting the Josh Allen jersey on Stewie. I absolutely love how far this Bills offense is coming. Gabriel Davis, to his credit, not the biggest part of it, but has certainly been a part of it. All right, question number 6. Tight ends without Travis Kelce, we're looking pretty funky. We got Darren Waller and George Kittle at the top. Kittle only 6K. I'm sure he'll be fairly chalky, but also have Irv Smith set up again. Well, you mentioned it before, no Kyle Rudolph again. Then Donald Parham under 3K, looking like a potential free square Hunter Henry sideline. What's your general strategy at tight end this week? Who do you find yourself just wanting to get the most exposure to?
Yeah, I mean, I have a tough time calling a tight end a free score ever, just because it's such a high volatility position. I mean, Parham had 3 targets last week. I know he played over 80%,
Fair.
over 80% of the snaps. So, I mean, there's definitely a concern there. And we talked about some of the other value guys. So I don't know if you have to go all the way down to Parham this week. Probably the guy that you mentioned is Irv Smith for me. He's sub 4K there. You don't have to go all the way down to get to guys like Lamar, Devontae, Henry with value at some of the other spots that we already talked about. So Irv Smith really stands out there for me. I think Noah Fant too. He's a little more expensive at 4,400, but we've seen him get 20 targets over the last 2 weeks. That game's actually kind of like one that's going to go overlooked as a shootout, just because I think people are going to be way more focused on these games with playoff implications. But that Raiders Broncos game, both of those defenses have been struggling a bit lately.
No, I love that. One of my favorite stacks of this week is potentially Drew Lock, Jerry Jeudy, and Noah Fant. I understand people. Drew Lock, he has a wide range of outcomes. There's a good chance if you roster him, you're just not going to even come close to the top. But you know what? That's fine. First or last in tournaments, baby. Just like Ricky Bobby said back.
Ricky Bobby.
Just got to go with that. And yeah, Noah Fant, he can be the legit number one guy in this offense during any given week. I mean, I know Locke has had back-to-back bad games, but even last week, I mean, a lot of that was drop-induced things that we tend to see be pretty volatile week-to-week basis. You got Tim Patrick down there at 4K. You can bring it back with Darren Waller, Nelson Aguilar. Like that call, man. Broncos Raiders. That's like the under the radar a game that we can really attack. I know Titans Texans will probably be the chalky one with those guys, but yeah, man, would you be down bringing that back with Waller, Aguilar? Any thoughts on the Raiders guys while we're on it?
Yeah, I mean, that's actually again, it's one of the games that I just like a lot because there's 5 games with an over under of at least 50. It's the only one with a spread under 5.5. Most of them are 7 or more. So it's the one that is expected to stay close. Both of the running backs are in play there. Again, I mean, I know you like Locke. There's so many quarterbacks with a lot of upside. I don't know if I'm going to zero in on the quarterbacks. I mean, we've seen so many tournament lineups this year, not just use a stack, but use a second or even a third stack. So even if you don't want to roll out Drew Lock, I think having one of the Broncos we talked about, bringing it back with Aguilar, who is top 5 in expected touchdowns over the past month, including Tim Patrick, like doing a mini stack or running back with an opposing wide receiver, Aguilar, Waller, Tim Patrick, the guys you mentioned, I think they're all in play as mini stacks, even if you don't like the quarterbacks.
Yeah, even Melvin Gordon or Philip Lindsay, we're expecting 3-down roll, and he's sitting there around 57K. Yeah, I forget who it was. I'll give a shout out later, but like running back, wide receiver, same team stacks. We're taking down like 3 or 4 straight milli makers or something. You don't necessarily need the quarterback to get good exposure to a high flying game like this. All right, TJ, we've teased this a little bit. Now it's time. I want a galaxy brain dart throw. Someone that people would mock you for hyping unless you started a statement off with disclaimer that, hey, this is a galaxy brain dart throw. I've relieved you of this embarrassment. TJ, give me your best.
This is very, very mockable. I'm gonna go with Mohamed Sanu.
Ooh, well done.
The Vikings are probably going to be one of the highest owned passing offenses of the week, maybe the highest owned offense across the board besides the Titans. If people bring this game back, it's probably going to be with Marvin Jones. He's top 5 in air yards over the past 5 weeks. The only other receiver on the team besides Marvin Jones is playing at least 2/3 of the snap over the last month is Mohamed Sanu. TJ Hawkinson's in there too, but he's a tight end. So Sanu with the snaps, opposite a really popular offense, a bring back in Viking stacks. That is the most galaxy brain I could get on you.
Only 3K. I saw Danny Amendola's name yesterday, and I was just like, no, I never even thought of Mohamed Sanu. I wrote an entire breakdown you can find on PFF.com. Not only did I not write his name down, I didn't even once think of him while doing that. I absolutely love it. Okay, I got one for you. So here we go. Colts are going to be putting up massive points against the Jaguars. We know this. How many will Jonathan Taylor account for? Because as we see, Nyheim Hines, someone they give carries to, 2-minute situation, they start, throwing the ball a little more. Maybe he finds the end zone once while he's spelling Jonathan Taylor. Maybe he gets a pass to go in there. Maybe he even gets a punt return. Nyheim Hines, Colts defense, special teams. Ooh. Let's stack that against the Jaguars team that deserves zero respect. And maybe, just maybe, Jonathan Taylor doesn't go bonkers. Nyheim Hines is the one that does. Wow. You approve, TJ?
I like it a lot. I will say that I really like, this is kind of a tangent here. I really like the idea of playing early only and late only slates, I think I really, really like that play on a late only slate.
Okay. I like that. Yeah, I found just every time I start a just full Sunday slate, I'm like, I'm not going to look at the, not going to look at the winnings, not going to look, 3:30 rolls around. I get my hopes up, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and they all go, I love early, late only. Let's just get it out of the way.
Well, this week's a perfect week to do it because we have 7 early, 8 late. There's so much unknown. The slate is so massive that like one little thing can throw off any week. One thing could throw off your whole week, but there's so much that's unknown this week, and the slates are so big that it really plays like 3 separate full slates, and it kind of lets you, if you play early only and afternoon only, kind of just lets you naturally hedge without forcing suboptimal lineups. So it's the perfect week to play multiple slates. And who said you have to play a contest where first place is $100,000? Like, you can play smaller contests. That's okay.
It's legal. You can do that. No problem. All right. Derrick Henry needs 223 rushing yards to get to 2K. Is there any way we cannot get this guy in the cash game lineups? You said before, Wolford, pay up for Devontae and Derrick Henry, but I just feel like even fading in tournaments is scarier than usual this week. Facing a Texans team that he has just massacred over his past 2 meetings. Everybody's been running all over these guys. The only thing that I could even think of why this could not work out is because JJ Watt pretty much threw the entire team under the bus. So we got maybe like a motivation factor coming. I don't know, man. Big dog. He's the lock of the century in this spot. Yeah.
I only have one concern, and let me actually get your opinion on this. How much do the Titans actually care about the division or like a first round home game? They're like, home field advantage doesn't exist, right? So this year, like, there's no fans in the stands. It's just been a super weird year. If they get the opportunity to rest players, because if Baltimore or Miami loses, then Tennessee's in the playoffs. So is there any chance that if they see one of those teams lose, that they don't care about the division title?
I feel like they care about the division title. I feel like for someone like the Bills, where there's not a bye week attached, you're getting your home game regardless. I'm with you. Like, I have not put hardly any stock in the home field advantage all year long, but I think getting that division title, I know what Josh Allen said, great t-shirt, but we went to the Super Bowl. I think that's still the overall mindset for all these teams, but to get the division title, I think they're going to keep their foot on the gas.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's the only thing I've been struggling with. This is the only game where a late game can be impacted by the early game. So I'm just kind of like wrestling with like, are we overlooking the fact that they can go into this game clinched with a clinched playoff spot? But yeah, otherwise, I mean, this is the team with the highest implied point total on the slate. This is I know the questions about Derrick Henry, but this is a really good game just to stack from both sides. I like the Texans side of it as well. But I think if they are keeping their foot on the gas, then it's get Derrick to 2K.
And I would just say, you brought us up before about the Vikings pass catchers. To me, it's like the same situation. The Vikings are going to put up points on the Lions. The Titans are going to put up points on the Texans. So if you don't have the salary to get up to Derrick Henry, or if you're just not eating the chalk with Mike Boone, go to those pass catchers then. Because, again, I do not see any scenario where the Vikings or Titans, they're scoring 15, 16 points. Some of these guys, A.J. Brown, Corey Davis, Jefferson, Thielen, they're going to be scoring, even if it's not the running backs. Make sure you have exposure to these games. Points will be a flying. TJ, thoughts, first of all, thoughts on the number 0 in football being swaggy. You in or out? Like
a even 70 or even 80? No, is that what you mean?
I've just seen it in college football. Guys, it's just 0.
Oh, no, I'm not on it.
Hate it.
No,
it's a basketball thing.
Yeah. I don't like it. I mean, there's only 1 0 in football, and it's a 0-0, and it's Jim Otto.
Yes. Okay. Fair. And I think personally, we need more receivers getting back into the 80s. I'm so proud of CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins for doing so, getting the Ocho and just, the Cowboys 88 lineage there. And hey, both of these rooks find themselves in the loaded 5K to 55 range. Man, what a transition by me there. 5K, 55 range with Nelson Aguilar, Curtis Samuel, Marvin Jones, Mike Williams also popping as viable guys. So in this range, and we talked about Mike Williams, potentially, I think he could even be a cash guy with, Herbert, but, Aguilar, we talked about Curtis Samuel being a cash guy too, but particularly in tournaments between Aguilar, Samuel, Marvin, Mike, the rookies, anyone that pops out to you in particular in this range?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of touched on the one that I like the most here, Nelson Aguilar. I mean, Denver's defense has been really good at defending wide receivers over the second half of the season, but I mean, the way to pop in tournaments is with the deep ball. The Raiders are actually third in the league in the second half in air yards per pass attempt. Again, a lot of that's been Aguilar. He's averaged more air yards per attempt he's fifth in air yards per target over the second half of the season. I like him as a bring back with Tim Patrick. One that we didn't mention in that grouping, Sterling Shepard at 5,200 is coming off a 12 target game, 27% target share over the last month. The Giants and the Cowboys both playing for a playoff spot against each other. If people are on this game, I think they're probably going to be on Amari or Gallup coming off of his big game. I mean, Dallas's cornerbacks, they have two cornerbacks right in the bottom 15 in fantasy points per route, and then their other cornerback top 10 in target rate. So lots of juice there for Sterling Shepard, who's been getting a ton of targets over the last month.
Love that, Colin. That's one of the injuries we got to keep an eye on is Golden Tate with his calf, has not practiced all week. Shepard's played 3 games without Tate this season, averaging 32 snaps in the slot per game, 22 or fewer reps from the inside in every other game. Before the season, I haven't looked in 2020 specifically, but Sterling Shepard was one of the most slot-sensitive players in the league, just in terms of he is so good inside. He can still do his thing outside, but again, not having Golden Tate there not only helps the target share, also just helps him getting inside, playing more comfortable from the friendly confines of the slot. Last question, TJ. Thank you for the time, man. This has been fun, but we got Jonathan Taylor. You know, I mentioned my Galaxy brain thought about Nyheim Hines maybe getting going, but come on, Jonathan Taylor, he's balling out now in a potential smash spot. Not a potential smash spot. This is a smash spot against the Jaguars. You know, Henry, Taylor, Brown, cash game lineups. I imagine those will be somewhat frequent. But, you know, when I'm looking at this, I just wonder, like, can we go down from Jonathan Taylor to, you know, Madison or Boone to spend up a wide receiver? Or do you think that like a cash game lineup without Jonathan Taylor is just a mistake?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hitting just because of salary. I mean, Taylor is probably just easier to get in than Henry. I don't think you definitely can't get away from both of them. I'm trying to get both of them in my lineups. I mean, with Malcom Brown, assuming Cam Akers is out, I just don't think this is a week to get away from those really smash spots or those guys with really defined roles, going to backups or players where we don't know how their snap or touch shares going to shake out. We've already discussed we have enough value at tight end. We have enough value at quarterback, plenty of value at wide receiver. If you're going to take the unknown, might as well go with the high variance position. I don't really see any reason, like, even if Alexander Madison is out, we already talked about, like, we've seen them do enough weird stuff with Amir Abdullah. We know that they could throw it against this team. So I just don't know if I'm going to any of these kind of random running backs in cash games.
Even tournaments, man, that might just be the move too. Because there is a way that all of these cheap running backs bust. It's not even that hard to imagine that happening. And to your point, we got value everywhere. Quarterback, wide receiver, tight end. You know, they're nice. They're not even free squares, but they're nice, cheaper options. But we got those cheaper options everywhere. Maybe just stay away from these cheaper running backs as a whole.
Yeah, there's ways to be unique in tournaments without going all the way to this different price range. I mean, guys like Austin Eckler are going to be crazy under-owned in potentially really good spots. I mean, Nick Chubb might go underrated. Guys like Kareem Hunt on the Browns, guys that have defined roles are still going to be very low owned. So I don't think we just automatically have to go to these backups or these guys without clear roles this week just because it's week 17.
100% agree. TJ, man, that's going to do it. Good stuff. Everyone, make sure you follow TJ on Twitter at TJ Hernandez. Again, he's the director of DFS at 4for4 Football. And also make sure you check out the DFS MVP podcast. TJ, anything else you want to pimp out?
Man, everything at 4for4. We're going through the playoffs. We got some big slates with 6 games on Wild Card Weekend. So make sure you check that out. Everything I do is at TJ Hernandez or at 4for4. We're going through the playoffs with DFS. Our season isn't over yet, man. We still got a month left. Happy New Year. Appreciate you having me. Happy New Year to you and all the listeners as well. And that's right. Football never stops, particularly on this podcast and in our lovely lives. So that's going to do it, everybody. Thank you as always for tuning in to PFF Fantasy Football Podcast. Truly hope each and every one of you have a great New Year's, and we will be back next Wednesday previewing the playoff slate. We have made it. The regular season is just about done. Go get that money. Make sure you check out pff.com and 4for4.com for all your DFS needs. So for TJ, I'm Ian. Take care, everybody.